Hi, and welcome, guys, to another great episode. I'm your host, Dims.
I'm Niz.
And I'm Saul.
Right, it's that time of year, guys. Ramadan Mubarak.
Hello.
Right, Saul, you ready for this?
Ready for what?
Ramadan, bro. 30 days of fasting.
Yeah, that's given.
Yeah, but don't you say that normally you start fasting a month before? Keep some voluntary ones just to get in practice. And you said you didn't do it this year.
Yeah, because there's loads of other things that's been happening throughout the world.
What are you on about?
You know, the ongoing situation.
Ongoing situation?
It's in the title, bro.
Oh, R.I.P. Yeah. So the way we came up with this episode is to think about Ramadan. We do this every year, and we'd like to talk about, what a difficult time this month is. It's got its challenges. It's obviously got its benefits, but not without its challenges. And then we thought, actually, there's a group of people that are going through extreme challenges as it is. And on top of that, it's Ramadan. We want to dedicate this episode especially to those people. We stand with you, people of Palestine. So, yeah, can you imagine what it's going to be like for them?
No, you cannot imagine.
It'll be tough, man. It'll be tough. That's all I can say. I know when we do our fast throughout the summer, it's barely a scratch of what they're going to go through.
They're not even being treated as humans. Ain't war supposed to have rules?
There are laws. In this country. If someone comes up to you in your house at your door and asks for water, you can't refuse them. When you go into a restaurant or a takeaway, why do we ask for tap water? Because it's free.
And they're not allowed free water. I mean, come on.
But unfortunately, Israel is portraying them as animals. They're trying to dehumanize them so that anything that they do to them, people won't bat an eyelid.
When we say Israel, I've got to make a distinction. It's not all Israelis and it's not all Jews, because there's a lot of good Jewish Israelis that do support the people of Palestine, that understand that this is not the way that their government's handling it. It's not the right way.
Yes, and I apologize for that. That is true. This only the right-wing certain groups, because even one of the hostages, an old lady who was kept hostage by Hamas, and yes, Hamas did.
You all right there, so?
Yeah, we're pronouncing it on.
Help me with the pronunciation again. Hamas.
Hamas.
Yeah, that's it.
Is it silent K?
Yeah, it's a K. Yeah.
Right, I didn't know that. But actually, don't let them confuse you, because this is not about Hamas or whatever.
The point I wanted to make was there was an old lady who said, please don't start a war. This is not the way to go. Don't bomb them. Yes, they had me hostage. Don't bomb them.
Oh, the victim of 7th of October when it all began?
Sorry, it didn't begin on the 7th of October.
Oh, did it not?
Don't be duped by what the media tell you. It didn't start on the 7th of October.
Isn't that the day that these militants went across, they abused and they murdered and maimed these people? Isn't that what happened? Isn't that why this conflict is happening?
We heard a lot of stories about the 7th of October, about beheaded babies, which turned out to be fake, which did turn out to be fake news.
Kids getting bombs dropped on them. Buildings dropped on their heads. The evidence is there. The bombardment evidence is there.
Yeah, and I mean, I'll just direct you, because if you think we're giving you fake information, just go to Hassan Mehdi's Twitter account and you'll find a short clip of a recorded Israeli TV show disputing the facts themselves. And actually, all of these things are being investigated. Unfortunately, with the way media and social media is today, what we see today, we probably won't follow up tomorrow. So that fake news will stay there forever, even though someone might have apologized for making the mistake.
Mm-hmm.
Like the calendar. No, sorry, it was a timesheet of when the Hamas militants were working like a 9-to-5 shift. Instead, it turned out to be a calendar of the shifts for the doctor.
Yeah, we know it didn't start on the 7th of October like the fake news media would want you to believe. And this is an ongoing conflict spanning decades. And it's just too much for us to go into depth right here in this show. But that's available. That information is out there. Go and research it. It's there. It's documented. These people were living in an open-air prison for many, many, many years.
It's like Baroness Vasi said on one of the Question Time shows, please go do your own research. There are reputable websites out there. Even go to the UN. I've been through their history of what they've logged. You'll be shocked to see some of the things written on there. The UN website, you can trust it.
And it's easy to point off like, oh, it's the conflict in the Middle East, and it doesn't bother. It does bother. It affects the whole world. It's getting so bad now. They're actually saying that people are depressed, not just Muslims, just people just generally what's going on. Obviously, the war in Ukraine and Russia, and now on top of this again, unnecessary war. It's not even a war. It's not even a conflict. It's actually, what would you call it?
It is genocide, which is...
There's also Another word for it, ethnic cleansing.
That is genocide as well.
Back to that point I was saying, it's not all about Hamas, because if it was, they would have gone about it differently. What they're trying to do is take the land. It's about the land. That's what it's about. They're pushing people out of the land. They've tried different covert ways, and now it's like brute force.
Do not trust what the Israeli government is pushing out as well. The Israeli government keeps on saying, look, we gave Gaza to the Palestinian Arabs and we asked them to govern themselves. No, you didn't. You built a wall around them. You made a border, and then you cut off their fuel, you cut off the water, and you cut off the electricity. What's the point of the United Nations? As we've always seen, America always seems to step in and put in their veto. So just at the end of February, someone tabled a motion for a ceasefire. All the countries voted for it, apart from the US, who vetoed it, and the UK abstained. The French voted for it. Every other country.
The US, they've got a homeless crisis. They've got a drug epidemic. And they've just got problems all over. So I don't understand why the US is doing this. In fact, the people of the US...
And just quickly, what he means by this is the US actually funds Israel by sending them $3 billion in military aid.
Is that legit? Like, is that verifiable?
It is. It's actually in their documents, and they even mention it themselves as well. They actually promote it, which is crazy.
If I was American, I'd be pissed off.
Oh, yeah. I mean, as Dim said, you've got homeless in your own country, but you're sending $3 billion in military aid to another country to kill children?
That's what I'm saying. It's like my granddad used to say, fix your own garden before you tell your neighbour to fix his, and their garden is effed up. Actually, saying that, our garden's effed up. Sunak, you little warmonger. We've got an epidemic here now of homelessness as well. We've got all sorts of problems. We've got a health crisis, an energy crisis. We're also sending money over.
And, well, Sunak recently gave about $2 billion worth in aid to the Ukraine conflict.
Sunak, I need some of that too, Bill. I'm struggling out here, mate. UK citizens, what are you doing? For what? To kill innocent, and I say innocent, not loosely, I actually mean innocent women, children, kids.
Don't forget Starmer, he's as bad as Sunak as well.
Yeah, and on that, when I said all the innocent kids, children, men, women, I like to say elderly, but there's not many elderly in Palestine. Unfortunately, they don't get that. I think, what was it, 57?
So we do need to remind everybody, the majority of people killed in Gaza at the present moment in time, more than 50% are women and children. These are not commanders. These are not fighters. They are women and children.
Got nothing to do with any of that nonsense that they're portraying.
Exactly.
At all. Innocent people. It could be you. It could be me. See, the thing that these people did wrong, which they had no control over, was
being born there.
That's the only thing. That's their bad luck, their misfortune. They were born there. And unfortunately, these war crimes are happening and no one's doing anything about it.
And remember, as Dim said before, just going back onto the genocide, genocide was a term coined after World War II, after Holocaust. The word genocide was coined by a Polish Jew, and genocide is two words, geno and side. One word is Greek, one word is Latin. I can't remember exactly what they mean. If Dims or so want to Google it, we can quickly give you the translations on that.
So it says here it was a Polish lawyer by the name of Raphael Lemkin who coined this term of genocide back in 1944 in his book Axis Rule in Occupied Europe. And it's a combination of a Greek word geno, which is a race of people, and a Latin pseudofix of side, which means the killing or the act of killing a race of people.
But genocide is not just murder. It's about removing the people's culture. There's 5 types of genocide. One is through murder. One is through removing the environment a people live in so that they can't actually live how their ancestors did. So removing their culture. And that's what's happening in Gaza and the West Bank.
It's like I said, it's brute force. They're bombing hospitals, for God's sakes. And this is not even, like I said, it's not a Jew, Muslim thing, Israeli, Palestinian. It's a humane thing. It's anti-humane. There's people that are just frustrated now.
And
I think it was you telling me about that American soldier.
Yeah.
Back in late Feb, wasn't it?
Late Feb. I think it was in the last week of Feb, where a American military service personnel in Washington stood outside the Israeli embassy, poured some kind of flammable liquid over their head, and then lit themselves on fire.
You can imagine doing that.
We don't authorize it. We don't say you should do this. Let's get that clear.
Obviously, can you see his desperation? And by the way, this wasn't a Muslim. This was a Caucasian, white, military male. And like Saul correctly said, we don't condone that. Self-harm is not part of our religion, or, it doesn't do anyone any good. We're trying to stop that. So what can we do then?
Well, one thing we can do is we can show solidarity with the Palestinians by following the BDS movement. That's the boycott, de-invest, sanctions movement. What that does is, one, the people can boycott Israeli goods. Two, de-investment, push companies to stop buying Israeli produce, Israeli products, any Israeli items. And
does that even work, though?
And sanctions, push our governments to sanction the Israeli government. Dim's, good point. Does it work?
What listeners are probably thinking.
It does work, but we all have to work together. And as I've heard from a couple of other people, don't think you're not going to make a difference. Every single person makes a difference. Even if one person does it, a snowball can only ever grow.
Yeah.
One person can start it, that can be passed on to two, and it can be exponential. Do something. We can then grow big enough where they will start making changes. And I can see the effects. Only recently has the British government and the Americans actually sanctioned 4 right-wing Israeli settlers. This has never happened before. And why has this happened? This has happened because you, the people, are actually pushing the governments to do something about this now. We're not going to sit back.
That's good, but the bombing needs to stop immediately. It just needs to stop. It's just gone on for way too long now. It's just gone to a ridiculous proportion.
There is a second point to this. I don't think it's just indiscriminate killing of people. What they're trying to do is, there's a new term being coined. It's called domicide. And domicide is where you destroy people's dwellings, meaning where they live, so that they can't return. I've seen images of northern Gaza. People will not be able to return there. There's no standing building left any longer, which means where are the current people going to go to? So what has the Israeli government done? They've said to them,
force them out.
They're not forcing them out, because then that will definitely be.
They are forcing them out, though. It's like they're not saying they are, but they are.
Exactly. They're not. So by the actions they are.
Leave through this safe. I know it is indiscriminate killing, actually. Leave through this safe passage, then you bomb the safe passage, right? Hospitals, which again, war crimes. You're not supposed to bomb hospitals.
And Dims, this is a point I wanted to pick up before as well when you said they're bombing hospitals. Unfortunately, what Israel is doing is they're blurring the lines. But there was a hospital where they said Hamas has a command center underneath the hospital.
I think it was the Al-Shifa hospital.
It was the Al-Shifa hospital. Nothing. They actually took over the hospital. They found one tunnel that went down. But when they showed their CGI graphics of this place, it was supposed to have rooms and dwellings and a command center. There was nothing like that there. What Israel is doing there, they are blurring the lines. I can't justify it. They can't. And this is how the Western media has portrayed it. X number of Israelis killed, X number of Palestinians
died.
Yeah, of course so.
This was one of the articles in BBC as well. I remember they actually mentioned that the Palestinian died. They always phrase it like that. This is how the West is always dehumanizing Palestinians for so many years. So if you keep doing that, you end up thinking like that. They're nothing. And it's not just the West, but it's just the way it's been taught to them as well. So the Zionists have already been taught that they're nothing.
But that's the thing, that the reporting on this conflict, because that's all they can call it. They can't call it a war because they know it's not a war. It's really a genocide. Or ethnic cleansing, whatever you want to call it. But it's been so one side, so biased, and it's just shocking some of the stuff you read. A reputable newspaper, I can't remember which one it was, but it was reporting about a Palestinian journalist who'd been shot in the head. And you've got to laugh because it's comical how they report it. The journalist, or whatever his name was hit by a bullet. When's the last time anyone was hit in the head by a bullet? He was shot. Why did you say it? Call it what it is. But I guarantee if it was the other way around, if it wasn't a Palestinian and he was Israeli, it would have been murdered in cold blood, had 10 kids. He couldn't walk, he didn't eat for 3 days. Like, it would have just been some...
And that's the thing we have to remember. Unfortunately, reporting is based on where you are. I've got several news sources. I read from the West. I also look at Al Jazeera. I've got Dawn News. I read all these articles because if you do read all of them, you will find the truth. Why?
You're getting a wide range of spectrum, isn't it? You're getting someone from the West and you're getting someone from the East.
Yeah,
because it's amazing.
In the middle usually.
Yeah, but it's amazing. We've seen this double standard in the recent years. We only have to look at how Ukraine and Russia was portrayed and how Israel and Palestine is being portrayed. I think there was a CNN journalist who said the Ukrainian conflict feels more closer to home because it's blonde-haired, blue-eyed, white people.
Yeah, I think I remember that.
Remember when that war started?
We're all humans.
Yeah, exactly. Every company, big companies had their flag. We stand with Ukraine.
We stand with
Ukraine, yeah.
And now if you have a Palestine flag up, the companies are not doing it. Oh, we don't do that anymore. And they want to take it down.
Sorry, Dims. This is what I wanted to do before as well. What Israel is doing is they're trying to remove the Palestinians' identity. They're trying to remove the flag. In Israel, it's been going on for over a year. They're not even allowed to show the Palestinian flag. It's actually an arrestable offence in Israel if you show the Palestinian flag. In Great Britain, what was her name? Suella Braverman made showing the Palestinian flag an actual offence. And people were arrested for this. They're trying to remove the identity of Palestine. They're trying to eradicate the name Palestine.
Just back to your point is, you can't compare the Russia and Ukraine war against what's happening against Palestine and Israel. Palestine don't have an army. They're at the mercy of Israel. Israel turned off their water supply, their electricity, is bombing their hospitals. And again, they don't have an army. They've literally just some ragtag soldiers there. People pick up arms. Most of them are kids just to defend. Hence, people call them freedom fighters.
Kids in prison for a long time. And that's why people are trying to stand up, because these children are in prison for so many years without even trial.
Benjamin Netanyahu, he's been recorded saying there's only one way to ensure the Palestinian state is never created.
Create a false flag.
Send your money to Hamas so that they can carry on.
Hamas is just a scapegoat.
So in other words, he's trying to create an enemy.
Yeah, a fake enemy.
That they could carry out this invasion. It's not an invasion. The land was already theirs. I mean, they'd built a concrete wall around Gaza. They'd cornered them off by sea. When I was speaking to someone, I said to them, this is an open-air prison. And they replied back to me, it's not an open-air prison. You get a chance to leave from prison. Palestinians can never leave. So what is this?
Yeah.
And the person actually explained it to me as a concentration camp. The only way you left a concentration camp was dead.
Yeah.
That's why we've sort of dedicated this episode to the people of Palestine. Like I say, it is Ramadan. It is a holy month. And you're going to go without food and drink for a couple of hours and you think you've got it tough. Just know there's people out there who've got it way worse than you. And any time, and like I say, the media always fobs you off like, oh, the war in the Middle East, oh, the trouble in the Middle East, oh, conflict, like it's their problem, they shift it. But if there's any time that place needed our support, now is the time. So this Ramadan, obviously pray for them. That goes without saying. But then also do whatever you can, whether it's boycotting certain companies that support this war, whether it's donating money, clothes, anything you can, because these people need it really bad this year.
Even at this moment in time, Israel won't actually allow aid through as well. These people are suffering. And on top of that, they won't allow any aid through. And let's just tell you how rabid the Israeli Defense Force is. It's not a defense force. The term defense force is propaganda.
IOF.
Yeah, they're offensive. You know, they're always on the offense. They're always fighting, always bombing beforehand. There were 3 Israelis who had escaped from Hamas. They were free. They realized IDF had turned up. They were waving white flags and they were saying, we were hostages. We are Israelis. We are Israelis.
And don't forget, they're speaking Hebrew as well.
They were speaking Hebrew as well. The IDF shot all 3 of them. This is how the IDF is trained. Do your research on this as well. You can actually find it online. So in Israel, it's a conscription service. You have to serve in the army. Once you've done your training, once you graduate, as they call it, you're given T-shirts. Do you know what these T-shirts have on them, Dims, Sol?
No.
Enlighten us.
I've seen 2 T-shirts. One of them is a picture of a child with a crosshair. And underneath it, it says, get them while they're young. The second T-shirt is a picture of a pregnant Palestinian, and it says 2 for 1. When you demonize people to a point where you make them non-human, it's easier
when I say
to pull that trigger.
You know, they're killing...
Well, that's what they tried to do, yeah.
Yeah, killing innocent women, children, and men. I rarely say old people, because guess what? There's not many old people. Unfortunately, if you live in that place, you don't get to see old age, because you're dead before that. In fact, 57% of the population is teenagers.
Yes, and more than 50% are women and children who have currently died in this conflict.
Nothing to do with Hamas, by the way.
Yes, this is what I was going to say. What is the ratio? So if Israel wants to claim this as collateral damage, what's the ratio? 10 innocent civilians for 1 commander, or is it 100 to 1? I think it's more like 1,000.
Even take 7th of October as the day it all began, which it isn't. But if you do your research, you're all free to do your research out there. it's a long conflict that we can't just cover in this one episode, but it's been going on for decades. But let's go off that, the narrative that they push. That was one day. It's been discriminate bombing daily for weeks, for months, with no electricity, no water, no aid being allowed. Any safe passage they give, they bomb that safe passage. Like, I can't believe I'm
this is collective punishment. So I think at this time, as we're getting closer to Ramadan, we need to keep them in our prayers. We need to try and support them as much as we can. I think the best we can do is try and support the BDS movement, pray for them, or try and give them as much aid as we can.
It looks like you've both covered most of the aspects anyway. If anyone's still interested in the BDS movement, there is an app called No Thanks. You can search that on Apple and Android. So just go into the Play Store or the iTunes Store, look up No Thanks, and all you do is you scan the barcode and you can find out if it's supporting Israel or not. And if it is, then obviously don't purchase that product.
If you're listening to this podcast thinking, I'm just one person, no, the ball starts rolling with one person. And we've seen this actually help. Recently, for the first time ever, we've seen Israeli settlers being sanctioned. This never happened before. We've seen companies come out and with their social media accounts actually saying, we don't condone what Israel is doing. This has never happened before. We see marches every single week. This helps. As long as we let the governments know what our priorities are, they will help.
Yeah, basically do something is the motto here. Don't think, like Niz said, every little helps. So just do what you can, especially this time. Tragic times we live in. It's really sad. And like I said, it's, everyone's depressed. Even if you're not going through it, you just feel like, what's the world coming to? This is just sad times. So if you think you've got it bad, trust, someone's got it there way worse than you.
And you know what? I was going to say, what pains me is we just haven't got enough time in this one podcast to go through it all. But you know what? What I've realized is if you come across anything where you've seen it on a reputable website, where you've received a message from someone, you've gone and researched it and you've been able to verify that it's true, forward it on. That's one thing that's missing in the world. The truth is not getting out. Because the truth isn't getting out, people actually don't know that it's happening. I bet you there are people out there who do not even know what Palestine is.
Yeah, they distract you with other things. That's what they try to do, or make little of what's actually going on. But like I said, this whole episode was about Ramadan. We do it every year, but this year we felt a special need to give a voice to those without a voice. So we dedicate this to the people of Palestine and to our listeners. Like we've said again and again, just do whatever you can, as well as prayer. There's actual actions you can take. It's your duty. And to the non-Muslims actually as well. People, this is not even like a Muslim Jew thing. Like I said before, it's not even Israeli Palestine. It's a humane thing. It's humanity. So stand united with humanity and go out there and try your best to follow the steps we've been telling everyone to try and put an end to this atrocity, these war crimes that are happening on these innocent people. Last words, guys, because we need to wrap it up.
Yeah, I think I admire the Palestinians, the strength, the willpower that they have. They've stood up for so long. And I think the Israeli government look at them and can't believe how they're able to withstand, how they're able to hold their heads up high. And I'm going to do as much as I can to support and help them. I hope you can too. So,
to all the Palestinians, you're in our hearts, our minds, our soul, and in our prayers. We stand with you.
Yes, we stand with you.
Yeah, and with that, to our lovely listeners, we'd like to wish you all a
Happy Ramadan!